Hi, Sandra
How you
and
doing?
Narnik, Miss Grant,
How you
Doing?
guys
Miss Sandra.
doing?
I'm doing great. Good to see you both.
Good
All
to
right.
see you.
So we're
Wonderful.
back at it again. We were here yesterday. We
Yes,
had a
we were here
spirited
yesterday.
conversation with our District 8 at-large candidate, Raymond Adderley. Was quite
Right.
spirited. We enjoyed every part of it. So we're
Awesome.
back here again. Remember, if you are on our Facebook Live and also our YouTube Live, please like, share, and subscribe.
Mhm.
We do this for the people. I have my vote shirt on because I need you all to go out and vote.
Oh
There you
yeah.
go. I
Good, good,
love
good.
that.
Vote, make sure you vote. So you gotta go. We this is why we do what we do. Your vote matters.
Yeah.
And so we're going to continue on with our candidate series. We've been doing commissioner candidates. We've been doing school board candidates. We even spoke to the mayor of North Lauderdale, who's running for reelection. So, we want everybody to know that these local elected officials make decisions on your everyday lives. So that's why we want to make sure we talk to them and have opportunities to learn who they are. So I'm gonna let co-host introduce herself. Everybody know you. I didn't even say my name. Narnik Pierre Grant, Narnik Nikki Grant. You can call me Nikki, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, Mommy of five, used to be a candidate, not anymore. I feel like I do most of my real work here. So we're here and we're always about the people. So and I got my Haitian flag because I'm all about my Haitian people.
Yep.
Caribbeans, the
I
black
see
diaspora.
Shelly.
My husband's Jamaican, so I'll be rocking the Jamaican one next time, so y'all can see.
Yeah, there you
We get married, become one. So I'm gonna let Sandra talk, and then we're going to introduce our candidate for school board, who is BTU endorsed. So we're gonna talk about that
Yes.
a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm Sandra Sheffer, the other co-hosts of Racing the Races, and sometimes you make plans, and it can't work out any better than the universe allows it to make, right? So
Yeah.
like when these interviews were being scheduled, we were like, oh my God, we got to schedule them so far out because we were meeting with some other folks, and then Jeff wasn't available until now, in order for us to speak with him. But this ended up being like the best time to have conversations with school board candidates, given what happened on Tuesday and what that's going to look like with the upcoming
Mhm.
school year, how the summer's going to play out. So it actually worked out perfectly that we get the BTU endorsed candidate to come to speak with us
Right.
after that Tuesday school board meeting, which was very conflicted. The
Mhm.
people who spoke on it, half of the people supported what the superintendent was doing, the other half didn't support it. But then the board itself unanimously agreed to allow the superintendent to do something that half of the community, if not more of the community, was not supportive of. So it works out like perfectly that we're here talking to a school board candidate because we're gonna ask him what he would have done, what he thinks should be done, how they gonna fix it, because I think it's gonna get ugly before it gets pretty. And
Yep.
those are challenges he may face as the representative for seat 5. And so, yeah, we're here. Go ahead, Dr. Jeff Holness. Tell us some stuff
Dr.
about
Jeff
yourself.
Holness.
I'll
I'm
ask
gonna,
you.
All
I'm gonna
right.
use your name, Dr. Jeff Holness, so everybody can see what who we really are. So go ahead, Dr. Jeff
And,
Holness.
and by the way, Narnik, I miss you in this race. I know we had a pretty great race in 2020. I love when you were there.
We were cordial and nice to each other.
We
We went
were, we were,
well. Yes.
we
Now
were. We had a
it's a
great.
different beast in this District 5 seat, honey. I leave that up to you, Dr. Jeff Holness. I can't do it.
Okay. Well, so I can introduce myself now, right? Is that
Yeah,
that's okay?
absolutely.
Great. So for all the Facebook viewers and anyone else watching, it is a privilege to be here. I thank Miss Grant and Miss Sandra. And Sandra, I want to make sure I say your last name correctly. Can you
Mhm.
help me with that pronunciation?
Yeah, Chef Frere.
Chef Freer, right?
Chef
All
Frere,
right.
yeah.
Well, thank you all so much for having me. It is always a pleasure speaking to you both. I do spend some time listening to your program as well, even before I was running. So thank you so much. Now, we are living in unprecedented times. In 2020, 2021, most of Broward students spent their school year taking classes online. And as a result, there have been significant learning gaps, right? Many parents are deeply concerned about these learning losses, with some seeing their children left behind and others having fear and anxiety as they worry that their children may not have the knowledge necessary to succeed at later grade levels. It is imperative that we elect someone with the right experience, the right knowledge to be able to get our students back on track in District 5, as well as working with the board to help children countywide. Together, we must work diligently as a district to develop programs and initiatives to fill these learning gaps and so our students can be college and career ready. I will work to ensure that District 5 receive an equitable distribution of resources to meet the learning needs of students so we can close these emerging learning gaps. On August 23rd, I'm asking for your vote. I am Dr. Jeff Holness, and I have been an active educator in Broward County for many years. I've lived in Broward County for 35 years and worked in approximately 25 years as an educator. I have developed learning programs when I was an educator. For example, I developed student learning communities at Lions Creek Middle, where we helped the lowest 25 percentile to improve their learning outcome so they can do better. At that time, it was the FCAT. Now we have the FSA. I will continue to work diligently for our students in District 5. I have held numerous leadership positions when I was an educator in Broward County Schools, which I was for about 17 years. I was the School Advisory Council Chair for several schools. I was the ESOL Coordinator, including many other positions. And I was fortunate to be selected by 2 middle schools as the Social Studies Teacher of the Year. And I also became a Social Studies Teacher of the Year finalist for the entire county. It was, I believe, 4 or 5 people were chosen. I was fortunate to be one of them. I am a graduate of Dillard High School, and I grew up in Melrose Park. I taught at several schools in the county, including Dillard Community School, Parkway Community School, and several middle schools, Apollo Middle, Lions Creek Middle, and Walter C. Young Middle. While attending Broward College when I was much younger, I lived in Lauderdale Lakes with my parents. And I also lived in Plantation and currently living in Sunrise. So all of these cities that I've been a part of are in District 5. So I am very familiar with District 5. And I will work diligently to create a brighter future for our children. And I will work to reduce the fear and anxiety our parents are experiencing as a result of the series of unfortunate occurrences we've had, including the pandemic.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So you are a wealth of information with the education background. So we're just gonna get into it, okay? So I had an opportunity to review the school board meeting from Tuesday, and I was a little bit disturbed. Not a little bit. I'm disturbed. I'm completely and utterly disturbed. You are the BTU endorsed candidate. So, give us an idea of what does the BTU endorsement process? What does that mean? How does that work? Tell us how that works, and then tell everybody what BTU means, because we're saying these acronyms and I don't think people understand what they are. So,
Right.
Tell us what BTU is and tell us what the endorsement process is for that.
Okay. Well, BTU is Broward Teachers Union.
Okay.
And they go through processes to select a candidate that they feel would be in the best interest of teachers and staff and ESPs and so on.
Mhm.
Now, in terms of their process, I can only tell you what I had to do.
Yes.
Basically, I was asked to participate in a questionnaire, which I did,
Mhm.
and then I was called in for an interview, and I went to that interview. So I followed the protocol of which I was directed to do.
Okay.
Now, in terms of any internal processes, that would be a question for Broward Teachers Union.
Okay.
I can only adhere to what I was asked to do, which I did, and I was fortunate to be selected as as being endorsed by the Broward Teachers Union. I am very happy that that has happened. In 2020, I didn't get that endorsement, but I was fortunate to get it at this time, So I'm appreciative. But in terms of process and so on, I think if we want to look at the more details of that, then BTU would be the best to ask. But I did follow their protocol in terms of what they directed.
Which is fill out their questionnaire and then a subsequent interview afterwards, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So fill out the question. Okay. Perfect. All right.
That's
So
what I can remember. Yeah. That's what I remember.
Okay. All right. So because I needed to get like some ground foundation. So were you able to see the school board meeting on Tuesday?
Okay, I didn't see the entire meeting because I was really occupied on that day. I had multiple obligations, but I have been given input from several people who saw that, and I
Mhm,
intend to watch it in its entirety.
mhm.
Sometime in the shortly, actually.
Okay,
But
okay.
I've heard of what happened, though.
Okay, so you have a gist of what went on about some
Right,
demotions,
right.
some people, people being demoted and or direct appointments by the superintendent. You heard a
Right.
little bit about that. Okay,
Correct. Yes.
um,
Yes.
all right. So you heard a little bit about that. Okay,
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm gonna let Sandra ask some of the questions because there were some people there that she took
Right.
notes. I took notes too, but my notes are not as accurate as hers.
Okay. I
Um,
would say not as detailed, right? Not as detailed.
Detailed, yes, because she gets the words and yeah, she does all
Right.
that.
Right.
So
Okay.
we are extremely disappointed with how the board behaved on Tuesday. And so
Right.
that's where we're going to segue into those things. So I'm going to let Sandra give you a little brief synopsis of what happened, and then we'll go into questions. Go ahead,
Okay.
Sandra.
And Miss Grant, can I ask a question?
Yes.
I just want to make sure I have clarity. When you say you're disappointed, can you elaborate on what was it? Was it the behavior? Or was it the content of what was discussed?
The context of what was discussed was
Okay.
upsetting, which
Okay.
was about this direct appointment and then these
Right.
demotions, and then the fact that the board, three people said nothing, five
Okay.
people said, or is it five? Yeah, five people said that were dissenting in terms of what the superintendent did, but then everybody voted unanimously. So
Okay.
that was very disturbing to me and
Okay.
very upsetting. So I'm
Okay.
going to give it to you, Sandra. Go ahead.
You're muted, Sandra.
All right, yeah, that's happening because I
I'm
was
trying to
printing
read. I'm
something.
trying to read lips, but I'm
I
not that
appreciate
good at
that.
it.
No, I appreciate that because I was printing something, and once I heard the print, I was like, "Oh, they hit a printer too." So let me, so let me go ahead and mute that. No, so I actually did go to that board meeting, and then I ended up watching more of the board meeting afterwards online. I didn't stay the entire day, so I just watched it online. But the part
Right.
of the meeting that I wanted to uh, that I got to see, and there was a lot of people there that went to see it too. Because I mean, it was so many folks that I ended up having to park across the street and paying a whole bunch of money to park because the parking lot was full. That's how much
Mhm.
people came in, to on this particular item, and I think it was H3 or something to that effect. About the superintendent made a decision to direct appoint people into various different positions. She also did an organizational chart that made some people lose their position, gain positions, and all of that kind of stuff. Because she basically wanted to structure the school board in a way that she thought would be better for her. And they did say that it's not something that superintendents haven't done in the past. I
Right.
guess maybe people took issue with the way she in fact did do it. So basically what she did, she came up with an organizational chart, told people this is what she gonna do, and that's exactly what she did, right? There's procedures in place where typically there would be some community input as to what principals are going to be going to schools and those different types of things. That did not take place in this particular instance, right? And and it seemed as though there was not a lot of transparency. And then another reason that was given for some of the decisions that were made with the organizational chart was to free up money because the school board appears to be very top heavy in salaries, and so
Right.
it was supposed to free up some of the money from the top heavy salaries in order for them to be able to give more money to teachers. So these were the explanations that was given on why this needed to happen so quickly and that it couldn't be a more transparent process, right? The issue that I had was the school board members. It was 6 of them that commented. The 3 of them chose not to. They all were saying like, well, we don't know if this process was the best way. They all admitted that the community did not like the way things were done. There were points being made about one of the reasons why this was done was because it was supposed to save money, but it looks like from the numbers that they're getting, they don't think it's gonna save as much money. And when the question was directly asked by Debbie Hickson to Dr. Cartwright about like, well, what's the numbers going to look like when this is all said and done? She said, well, she didn't know. She's not sure if it was going to be that close because, you know, the salaries of some folks is going to depend on years of experience and all of these different things on how they calculate salary. So she wasn't even sure if, in fact, these moves were going to save money, right? So given that it was all of these issues with this, the community was not in support of it, right? And the fact that they may have been under the gun was more on the poor planning of the board and the superintendent than the community. They should have, you know, listened to what the community said. So the board members, they said all this and then they was like, yeah, you know, we understand that, but, you know, the superintendent gonna have to deal with this. Yeah, you know, we're looking out for the kids. I don't see how that makes sense if the community said they don't want it. And they all voted unanimously to allow her to do all of these direct appointments, to do these direct appointments. And I think that was problematic, particularly since the board members spoke about what the problems that existed in that process. And they didn't give to me any explanations that would overcome, like, you know, the reasons that they gave did not overcome the concerns of the community. And they went ahead and voted that way. I said all that to ask you this. If you know, as a person in one of the districts that was most affected is the one that is the seat that you're running for. If you were on that board and you knew that your community absolutely didn't want this, mind you, the community I'm talking about are the people that elected you in that position to represent their interests, would you have voted in support of the superintendent, even though your community, the people who voted you in your seat, did not want that?
Okay. Great question, Sandra. And I'll say this first of all. You know, I've heard a lot of what occurred, and I know there are issues, and lots of people are upset about the way things were done. And I'll tell you this: I will make sure the process and the hiring process is fair. But when you look at what you mentioned with the community, it's obviously very, very important that we have community input when we make certain decisions that will impact the community. And of course, I am in support of that. And it's really important that we have transparency. Now, a lot of the information provided to the board members, obviously, I wasn't privy to a lot of what was given to them. But if there's any decision where the community is completely against it, of course, I'm going to have or recommend processes where you engage the community. After you engage the community, if they're still adamantly opposed to what we're trying to do, then we do have to listen to the community. But like I said, I wasn't privy to a lot of the information presented to the board, but obviously I will be on the side of the community, and I do encourage transparency in any process that we have so the community can be involved as well. Now, in terms of where you mentioned more money to be given to teachers with the shift that and the different changes in positions that take place, you know, that's something that I obviously want to get more information about, because you know, I am in support of our teachers and our staff and our ESPs, and it's important that when we're looking at allocating more funds in whatever changes we make, I certainly would want that to go to the teachers and our ESPs. And if that's not happening, then obviously we'll have some serious discussion on that as well.
So that was a nice diplomatic way to answer the question. I don't know if you answered it, but I'm gonna give it to you, Jeff.
Okay.
So here's my issue.
Okay.
Chaos Cartwright. Yes, I
Right.
said it. I called her Chaos Cartwright. You may not want to agree with me, but Chaos Cartwright
Right.
is out here demoting people.
Mhm.
And replacing them with people who may or may not be qualified. That's number one, because she don't know, she didn't have the information to provide. That's number one. Number two, the driving force from what from the community standpoint, from what we are getting feedback from, is the BTU. So apparently BTU and Cartwright are like this. And so they had 15 people from the BTU, or 10 people, however, who came and talked first and was in favor of everything that Cartwright was presenting, which I found very, very strange, because they're supposed to be the Broward Teachers Union, so they're supposed to be protecting the teachers. But anyway, I digress. So my thing is, my issue with the superintendent is that she shouldn't have been the superintendent to begin with, because she was coming on here temporarily. Then the board decided to change their mind. They wanted to put her in, whatever. Okay, now we're here. Can't complain about spilled milk. But here we are with a superintendent who is wrapped around with the BTU president, who basically is getting counsel from the BTU people. Okay, and you are a BTU endorsed candidate. What say you to that? Are you comfortable with the BTU out here just running stuff, running people, running superintendents, and working behind the scenes and causing people to just vote any old type of way? Because as far as I'm concerned, and we've had this conversation before when we were running together, I'm here for the people.
Right.
Whatever the people say is whatever the people. That's what the people want is what the people get. And maybe that's why I didn't last, and maybe that's why I'm not running again. But I refuse to be I'm going to use the governor's words, indoctrinated by this political garbage that's going on around. So you have BTU, who is a union organization who makes endorsements, but then they heavily influence elected officials, and they heavily influence the superintendent.
Right.
It's just not okay. So you are a BTU endorsed candidate. How do you feel about that? This is the people talking, right? This is not just Sandra and Nikki. This is the people talking. We have conversations with people in the community. This is what's going on. This is what the hubbub is. And people are frustrated and tired of the BTU trying to run stuff behind the scenes. And there's real lives at stake, Jeff. There are people who are being demoted. They're getting their pay cut. There are people who are losing their jobs. There's real lives at stake. What can you say about that?
Okay, so what I'll say is this. First of all, a lot of the changes that have taken place, I intend to look at the details of those changes. The people who were shifted, demoted, was there a demotion in pay as well, or did the majority of these folks have a lateral move in their pay, and were they demoted in their positions? I need to get a lot of details on what takes place. I tend not to be the kind of person who instantly jump to a conclusion until I have all the facts and details. But obviously, if there is some biases in the process, then we have to stop that. Now, in terms of the Broward Teachers Union interview all candidates, and the Teachers Union can choose who they feel best to meet the needs of our teachers and staff, right? Like I said, they chose me in 2022. They didn't choose me in 2020. As far as the teachers union, everyone showed up for the interview. So I don't think anyone is necessarily against the goals of the teachers union, because the goal of our concern is that our teachers are valued and respected and recognized. That's our concern, right? And I was a member of the teachers union when I was a teacher. My sister is a current teacher. She's a member of the union, and some of the candidates, I believe a couple of them are members of the union. So I don't think it's necessarily, people are against Broward Teachers Union. I think you have to look at whether or not processes that are taking place are fair. And I'm not privy to a lot of, I hear what you're saying, but I can't make conclusive statements when I don't have all the facts and details. But I will tell you this, though. It is really important that we value our teachers, we value our staff, we value our ESPs, and that we do everything we can, because it all starts with a teacher. Neither myself nor Sandra nor you, Nani, would be where we are without a teacher. And I can identify great teachers who were role models for me. I remember one, Mr. Walker. And so teachers are important in the process of ensuring that the future generation of kids are successful. And that's where my focus is. My focus is ensuring that we value our teachers, we respect our teachers, and that we recognize our teachers, and we do everything we can to improve the pay. Now, you mentioned that money that supposedly are being saved from these shifts will go to teachers, but you're saying that there's a possibility it will not. Now, those are questions that I will ask, because it's important that we if we're intending to make shifts in order to provide better compensation for our teachers so our teachers can feel valued and it trickles down to the children, then we need to make sure we are doing that. Now, those are the kind of key questions that I'll ask, because my intent is to stay focused on the goal. The goal for me is valuing teachers so student learning outcome can improve. If we're not moving funds in that direction, then it needs to be questioned.
All right, Jeff, I got some questions for you.
Okay.
Because you said a whole lot of some stuff. All right. So I'm not. You made a point that you don't want to make any conclusory statement based on not having all the information.
Correct.
That's fine. But one of the things, and you run a business yourself, because I've interviewed you before. I interviewed you a couple times in 2020 when you were running before.
A very successful learning
center. A very successful Kumon business, and you were able to transition when the pandemic happened, and so much so that Kumon is using some of the things that you implemented to make sure your business was successful. Right? All right. Let's not get into the necessarily the nitty gritty of what happened. Should people have been promoted, or should they have been demoted? Let's not get into that. But one of the things as a business owner, right, is that management matters, right? How you present information to your staff matters, right? For the people that work for you, right? And I have an MBA, and I didn't even take and this is one of the things that I learned in my communications class, right? Typically, when big corporations are going to change the organizational structure, that ain't nothing that you do in a couple of weeks and you do a straight direct appointment, because you know what that's going to do? That is going to cause problem in the workspace, and employee morale is not going to be okay, and you're not going to get the best from your employee. Can we at least agree on that part?
Well, when you acquire,
no, that's like a yes or no. Like, if there's going to be a change in the organizational structure in a big corporation, right? And if you don't have some sort of plan in place to do that, and you just do it, is it not going to have an impact on employee morale?
If it occur in that way, yes. Now, it's important.
So that's the way this happened. Okay, that's the way. If it happened that way, so at the very least, we have to say that in terms of the management style of the superintendent, it's not a very good one, because she made an organizational change in a very big organization and did not give the people in that organization any time to transition, and there was no proper introduction of that new organizational chart to the people that's working for her, right? And that's going to have an impact about how her organization run, to the point where all different types of things are going to happen, and whatever nice outcome she thought was going to take place, it's not going to take place, because employee morale is going to be affected from the top all the way to the bottom, because she handled that improperly.
Right. And Sandra, I agree with you that transition needs to be effective in any organization, whether big or small. I mean, even if you acquire a simple business as a command center that's already existing, it's important that you have effective transition, and that the staff continue to feel valued, and so that we can agree on. Now, like I said, I intend to investigate and to get all the details on what has happened, and to look at everyone who were promoted, everyone who were demoted or shifted, and look at the changes in pay, the changes in position, and see if there's really a problem. And I think we should also, as far as you mentioned, with the community input and transparency, that has to be in place. And I agree with that. Now, what I'm saying is, when you are on the board, you're provided with a lot more information that I would be provided as a candidate. So obviously, my standpoint is this. I stand with the community, and I stand with transparency. When information is presented to me, I will put the community first, and I will ensure that I advocate for transparency in everything that we do. The information presented to the current board, I wasn't privy to that information. So it's very difficult for me to draw a definitive conclusion on some of the matters, but I intend to look into those matters and see if there was an issue that we really need to address.
Okay. So I'm gonna just interject, because while I totally understand what you're saying, Jeff, because you need the information or whatever, but just on its face, right? Just on its face, and just on what we're telling you, because we don't go around, we don't over embellish.
But I'm a research guy, right?
You are a research guy. I know that, but just and I respect that. But just on its face, the just the fact that someone, the superintendent, now, number one, the current superintendent was in the process of losing her job at another place where she was before she came to our school district. That is fact. That's not fiction.
And part of the reason why she was losing her job is because of employee morale.
And plus, because employee morale. So this is a pattern for her, right? So just on his face, Jeff, face, right? So you're talking about someone who comes here. She's leaving. She was in the process of being fired, but she left before that happens, and she comes here. And my thing is that our district, as you know, has been in total shambles since the pandemic. So you're going to go pick up garbage to bring the garbage? Makes no sense to me. You understand? And I'm being completely honest with you. She is garbage. She was doing nothing but garbage.
Words. I'm just saying her management style is not the most effective.
Well, her management style is garbage. How about we do that? Her management style is garbage. She brings her management garbage style here, okay, and then implements the same garbage. We already garbage. This district is garbage. Everybody on that board is trash, okay? And we're looking for people to come. We're in a point of desperation, Jeff. We're in a point of desperation.
Right.
This district is on flatline. We're like on. We're on like we are on. What is it? We're in a coma, right? We're in the flatline. We're just trying to get there. So we need people. We need candidates that's going to come in and breathe life into this district. Right. So for me, I get what you're saying, that you need information to make a decision, whatever. But just on its face, this is unacceptable. Just on its face, it's unacceptable.
Right. And Nani, like I mentioned, it's, I hear what you're saying, and I understand that a lot of folks are very emotional about what has happened. And, there are legitimate arguments for the emotional reaction. As a leader of the community, it's important that I maintain my composure. It's important that I look at the facts. It's important that I research the details and I'm provided with the information, and then use that to make informed decisions, right? I don't think it would be advisable for anyone to be elected who just makes decision based upon an immediate emotional response without having details and facts. Now, I'm not saying anyone does that, but I'm saying that the kind of person that I am, I like to be presented with all the facts, with all the details. I like to do my research. I want to know how many people were moved in either direction, up or down. I want to know what kind of pay adjustments were made. And I want to know how and in what way was the community involved, what kind of transparency took place. And after looking at all of that, and I come to the conclusion that these things weren't done appropriately, then obviously I will then have substantive argument to then say that we need to look into how we can change this process with having the superintendent making these kind of decisions that impact student learning outcome. Now, let me just say this. This district has been through traumatic situations over the last few years. We've been through the pandemic. We've had a superintendent that was removed. Now we have a new superintendent. I mean, there's a lot that our kids encounter. And so it's important that going forward, whatever decisions we make, that we're making those decisions in the interest of children without causing any further disruption to their academic environments, right?
The superintendent caused disruption.
I understand that, and that's why I'm presenting this argument that it goes both ways, right? Neither the superintendent nor anyone else should unnecessarily cause any further shock to our school district. And so I want to have a kind of a communicative relationship with our superintendent to understand what are the thought processes, why are these decisions being made, and to look at all the facts that's given and to criticize those when necessary. So I am not telling you I'm for or against the superintendent. That's not what because everybody knew where I stand in 2020. I didn't make that a secret, right? So, and I was one of the few who stood up for where I stand in 2020. But what I'm saying is this: I haven't had the privilege of working side by side with this superintendent. I want to know more about Miss Cartwright. I want to understand the processes that goes on in making these decisions. I want to look more at the details of these decisions, and of course, I am going to be there to ensure that our community are involved and that transparency takes place.
Okay, let me
So,
ask you.
so
All right,
don't
enough
get
of that. Okay,
and
Jeff,
before,
thank you so much.
don't
Thank you
get
so
me
much.
wrong. I want to
Thank you,
make.
Dr. Jeff. I gotta ask you something different because you
Okay.
going into this direction and your point is basically you don't got enough information. You don't want to make no assessments about her until you get in the situation where
And
you
I want to make it clear. I'm not telling you.
that's the same point you keep making. You
Right.
just saying it 10,000 different ways, but basically that's what you're saying, that you are not gonna make no assessments about what the superintendent did until you get additional information, and you're not gonna get that information until you get on that board. So okay, we're gonna dead that point right there. Let me
Okay.
ask you something else though. What are your thoughts about the way she got her position in the first place? What do you think about them changing the rules and allowing her to actually even be our superintendent? Now that I think you could give us a straight answer
Right.
to.
Well, obviously the rules need to be clear and they need to be
The
followed.
rules
Right.
work very clear. The
Right.
rules
And
were clear.
they need to be followed. And maybe they falter in that direction.
And they weren't followed.
Right. So maybe they're, but we now have Miss Cartwright as the superintendent, and
No, but I'm saying I want to know what's your position on how she was hired in the first place? Would you have been one of the board members that would have voted to change the rule to allow her to be the superintendent?
Well, once we have certain standards in place and we have certain rules in place, I think they should be followed. Now,
that ain't what I asked you. I didn't ask you if you think they should be followed. I asked you whether or not, if you were on the board at the time and they decided to hire somebody that went against the rules that they in fact set out themselves, would you have voted to hire her? That's the question.
Well, my understanding is that they kind of came together to change the initial.
Okay, so would you have
process.
supported the rules being changed in order for her to be able to get this job?
Only unless there is clear reason for doing that, and I don't know what information they had to make that change, but only unless they can present me with substantive reasons to make that change, then no, I probably wouldn't. But if they have very valid reason to make that change, then I would consider it. We have to look as leaders.
So this one thing that so as we know, all of these board meetings, right? You can watch them. Even if you don't see them live, you can actually watch them, right? At some audition date. Right. You're wanting this position. You want the people in District 5, Seat 5 to vote for you, right? This is information that you could have obtained. You could have watched the board meetings to see how it is that she was hired and see what your thoughts were on that. You could have watched the board meeting to see how the community felt about what it is that happened on Tuesday in order for you to be able to answer this question. So I just don't think it's okay for you to, when you go, we here today, it's only a couple of days later, you didn't have time. But I think the next time you're presented with these questions, you should be able to have some more straight answers for everybody. Because this is starting to sound like I ain't finna I'm gonna be on the fence. I'm gonna have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. That's what this is starting to sound like to me.
I think that's an unfair assessment of my response.
It's not unfair. That's exactly what you just did.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
Okay. Now, what I said to you, I didn't tell you I wasn't aware of the process in which she was selected, right? What I said to you is that the reason the board made the decision to change the process, I wasn't privy to that information. Only the board would have been privy to that information, right? So and I said
they had a whole meeting on it. They had a whole meeting on why they were going to change the terms in the contract to allow her to reapply for the job. They had a whole public meeting on that.
And I mentioned to you that if the reason in my perception is substantive to make the change, then I would. If the reason in my perspective wasn't substantive enough to make the change, then I wouldn't.
But they gave the reasons, and so you didn't hear the reasons that they gave?
Well,
is that what you're saying? You didn't hear the reasons that they gave?
I didn't listen to everything.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. Go ahead, Nani.
So Jeff, this is what, because we don't just talk amongst ourselves. We talk with community people, and you're running for District 5. That was Osgood's old seat. So we know a lot of people in that area, or whatever. So people are looking for a candidate for District 5 that's going to be for them.
Okay.
There have the Dr. Osgood was there before. some people like her, some people didn't. Okay, so we get it from both sides. They're looking for someone to be as transparent as they can. I understand that you're running I understand that you're running for office, and I understand that there's certain things you can say, certain things you want to be careful how you say it, because there's a whole thing. And I ran for office, so I understand. I get it. However, Jeff, I'm being totally 100% with you. District 5 is looking for people that's going to be, this ain't right. It looks bad. I know that it's bad just on its face. Like, you're asking for all this information.
And
but it doesn't look, it comes off as
some things don't pass the smell test.
And Narnik, they're also looking for people who will look at details, look at facts, and make decision based on those facts. I think emotional responses without having all the facts is not a good leader.
It's not emotional. It's not emotional.
No, but what I'm saying to you is this: when presented with all the details, all the facts, I will examine those details, those facts, and make a decision that is in the interest of the community. Now, for you when you mentioned District 5, I grew up in District 5. I lived in Plantation, I lived in Sunrise, I lived in Lauderdale Lakes, I taught at Dillard Community School. So District 5 is no stranger to me, right? So what I'm saying to you is, the kind of individual that I am, and I think a leader should be, is you need to look at all the details and facts and then make an informed decision. Now, I'm not saying to you that I am for or against any particular issue or the superintendent or so on. I'm saying to you that the interest of the community and their involvement, as well as transparency, obviously I'm going to embrace all of that. And the end goal is the interest of the students. I was a teacher in District 5. Okay.
So you grew up in District 5.
Yeah. And
what are the needs for District 5? What are the people telling you in District 5?
Okay, so I'm gonna need you to back. Hold on a minute, because Dr. Jeff done said something a couple of times, and I need some clarity. Right. Okay. One of the things that you've said several times is that you're going to make logical decisions based on facts and not have an emotional response to what's happening. Right. I need to know who it is that you're saying is having an emotional response to what's going on. Is it the community people? Is it the teachers? Is it the board members? Who do you think that's acting in an emotional way to what just happened?
Right. No, I didn't say right. And let me clarify. I didn't say anyone is acting in an emotional way.
No, you said you don't want that. They shouldn't make emotional decisions without having facts and using logic. So who is it that's making emotional decisions in this particular instance? Are you talking about the community people, the teachers, the administrators, the people who are affected? Who is it that you're terming as being emotional in their response to what just happened?
That comment is simply directed towards me. I'm saying to you that the way I do things, I look at details, I look at facts, and I don't, because if I am to make decisions on this interview about certain things that are being asked without having all the details and facts, I'm saying that's not how I approach things. This is not directed to anybody else. This is not saying somebody else made an emotional decision or the community or such and such. I'm saying to you that the questions that you ask, and we've spent a lot of time on the I thought we were going to talk about several topics, but
we are.
In any case, I'm saying to you that I will look at all the details, and personally, not directed to anyone outside of me, that I don't make emotional decisions alone. I look at the facts and the details.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what are your goals? Like what's the top 3 things that District 5 needs, and what are those? What are your goals for that? What are your goals for District 5?
Well, when you look at District 5, and part of the concerns that many parents have, especially when we are on the other end of the pandemic and with what has happened with the school safety issues and so on, many parents are concerned now, and I've heard it because I have a learning center. They're very concerned about the learning gaps that have been created because of the pandemic and because of being online for quite some time, and also very concerned about whether or not their children will be able to succeed at the next grade level and become college and career ready. So my focus is on our children. And in order for us to address effectively the needs of our children, we have to attract and retain qualified teachers. And in order for us to do that, we have to respect, we have to value and recognize our teachers. My focus is students. And in order to reach students, we have to ensure that everything else that affects our students are taken care of. So one of the major concern is closing the learning gaps that have been created as a result of the pandemic and bringing back the confidence in our parents that their kids will be successful at future grade levels. Obviously, the next concern is school safety and mental health. I believe they go hand in hand, right? You can keep your schools safe, you can fortify your schools, but if kids are having mental issues, they will find a way to harm each other and harm themselves and so on. So it's really important that we put those two together and that we have a collaborative effort by our school safety team and our mental health professionals. They work together to ensure that our kids are healthy mentally and that our schools are safe. I personally believe that we should put as much effort into mental health as we do in school safety, right? Because we do spend a lot of money on school safety. We do have to find ways in allocating resources for mental health as well, and so that is really important. Now, obviously, one of my concerns, which sometimes this gets overlooked, is the needs of our ESC students, right? I haven't seen many of the board members look at that issue, but I think it's important. And as a board member, I will ensure that our ESE children that they are properly accommodated. And by the way, District 5, just like other districts within the school, there are many parents with ESE children. These are children with learning disabilities who are not getting their needs met because these kids are being overlooked. So for those parents, I'll say to you that I will be a strong advocate for your ESE children. I myself have an ESE child, and I know the struggles. And even though I'm an educator, and even though the schools know that I'm an educator and I've been in the school district, I still encounter many problems in meeting his overall learning needs. So I can imagine the scope of issues that these parents experience as well. In addition to that, Narnik and Sandra, it's important that we have an equitable distribution of resources, especially when we look at District 5. And that's a concern as well.
So let me recap. So your top things are attract and attain quality teachers,
right?
Closing the learning gaps, school safety and mental health, ESC students, and equitable distribution of resources. Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the attract and attain quality teachers, and then learning gaps in the mental health. Now, what are some of the things that you are going to propose to get that to happen? Because I know
it's like 4 questions. What part of the question you want him to
answer?
I
mean, because all of this requires money. So
I know, but what part of it you want him to answer? Because you asked like about retaining teachers, mental health gaps.
So I'm asking. So those are his 3 things. I want to know how he's going to propose to make that work. So let me go with one.
Budget, like what would he put?
Let's do quality teachers. Let's do quality teachers.
Okay.
So. Okay. But I know that that's going to cost the district some money. What are some of the things that you are thinking of to kind of, or programs or something? What are some of the things that what ideas do you have to attract quality teachers to district?
Okay, so oftentimes we feel that when we talk about attracting and retaining teachers, many times we look at just compensation alone, right? And compensation is really important. It's important that we properly compensate our teachers. But there are a lot of teachers who feel they're not valued either. They're overworked, they're underpaid, they put a lot of pressure on them. They're asking them to teach constantly to the Florida Standard Assessment, to the FSA test, and they feel very unsupported. I think that we need to look at ways in which we can ensure that our teachers feel more valued, that they feel that administration is in their interest. They're not pressured with so many different areas, and that they're recognized. Oftentimes things are just dumped on a teacher, as opposed to the teacher feeling that they're getting a strong support from leadership. So I think it's important that teachers are involved as well in the decision making of the school leadership and the district leadership. Oftentimes, and I know when I was a teacher, and I've heard it from many teachers, they feel like they're not a part of that decision making process. They feel sometimes isolated. They feel taken advantage of. They feel they're not supported. A lot of teachers are going out of their pockets to buy stuff for their classroom. Teachers have a genuine interest for students, and they will do whatever it takes. Some of them are working two jobs so they can buy supplies for their classrooms because the money they're given is not adequate. So I think we need to show value to our teachers. We need to involve them in the decision making process, and we need to find ways to properly compensate them, right? So just like you mentioned before, there are shifts being made in the district, and we need to see these money trickling down to our teachers.
Okay. So the referendum that's coming, that they're asking the community
Right.
to vote for, is that
Right.
referendum? Because I'm not versed in the referendum, but is that referendum has a compensation for teachers in it, and that's the one that's going to be on the ballot?
Yes, it does. It's the Secure the Next Generation referendum, and Nani, that I believe was 2018 that was passed, and now we're trying to get an additional zero point 0.5 mil so we can continue because that those funds have been exhausted. So we
Mhm.
want to be able to now continue to provide teachers with that increase that they had from 2018. If we don't pass this referendum, teachers will see a cut in their pay. I believe it's $82 million of that money will go towards teacher salary. Part of it will go towards school security and part of it towards mental health. But 75% of it will go to teachers' compensation and staff.
Would that be for the new teachers coming in, or that would be across the board?
As far as my understanding, it will be across the board. Now, as far as how it's divided and that I am not quite sure as yet. But
Okay.
it's important. It's important. I'll tell the voters this, and I'm glad we're on these topics because this is where my real interest is. Because if we do take care of our teachers, we're taking care of our students. I am a teacher at heart, and I have students in my learning center as well. But the money that's coming down the pipe for the teachers, it's really important that voters approve this. This will just be a minor increase in your taxes. I believe it works out to be $12 or $13 a month, right? Now, it may be, I mean, I know a lot of things are going up. Gas is going up. I don't know how far it's going to go. It keeps skyrocketing. And I know money is tight for many people. But the consequence for your children without passing this next generation referendum is too significant to ignore this. So I am encouraging voters, please vote for this. This will be in the interest of your children.
What's the total amount for the referendum? Do you know, Jeff?
I think it's $177 million, and
Okay.
then a part of that, like I said, 75% goes to the teacher compensation, and 18% goes towards school security, and 7% towards mental health. Now, like I said, I do. I wish we had more ways of providing funding for mental health. Um, it's never enough. I think a lot of the issues that we see, and Nani and Sandra, if you look at a lot of these school shootings, a lot of these are school shootings are committed by young people who just came out of school, right? There are mental issues that they had from their years throughout school. We need to have interventive measures to be able to, to see and locate these children when they're having these issues, to identify these children as they're going through their school years, and to provide them with the help they needed. Now, this is not to say there's any justification for any of these mass shootings, but I think we need to have a deep look at why these young people are doing this and see what we can do as a society to change that, to shift that.
Okay, I have a couple questions about that. So, who is it that would manage this money that they want the taxpayer to trust the school with again? Who manages the money?
Well, I mean, my understanding is the money would go would be a part of the budget process, and then the district will present to obviously they're earmarked for specific things, like as I said. So you can't change what the voters vote on, but it would be a part of the budget process.
So that be so
And who
that
manages the budget?
yeah, that's so superintendent and the school board, or just the
Right.
school?
Well, the school board approves the budget. It's presented to the board.
Okay.
So district leadership will, including the superintendent, present the budget in general to the board, and then the board approves the budget, or the board, may have a disagreement with parts of the budget, and then it goes back and forth until it's approved.
So didn't the people just give the board like $800 million to do some stuff and they didn't do it? Why should the people trust them again with more money?
Well, remember now, Sandra.
No, I don't remember. I want you to tell me. I don't know.
No. I'm commenting on what your question is.
Oh, okay.
What I'm saying is, I want you to understand that this money is earmarked for specific things by the voters. It cannot be changed.
Was the last money earmarked for something specific too, and it didn't happen?
Well, no. The Secure the Next Generation funds, those funds must be spent the way the voters vote on it, right? You're probably referring to the smart bond money. That's a whole different thing, right? Money that's presented to voters to be spent in specific ways must be spent in those ways.
Mm-hmm.
So to clarify, the budget is approved by the board, and then leadership staff is who manages the budget. Because do we have a CFO? Because I know the CFO we had before, Marte. I think it wasn't Marte. She's gone. But do we have a current CFO now in the school board, and that's who would be managing the budget? Correct. Right.
Well, I mean, they normally have someone, a CFO, in charge of putting the budget together and so on and so forth, and then that's presented to the school board to approve the budget. So yeah, I mean, I couldn't see it function any other way.
Okay, but I want to know, so who decides how much money the teachers are going to get, right? So the person's how are they going to? Is there going to be some formula in place that's going to determine what percentage of how much money each teacher is going to get, or is someone going to be able to just I think this teacher should get this amount? The teachers out west seem to work more, and whatever for their students, or their students perform better, so they should get more money, even though their performance is based on their parents supplementing their education. How is it that they're going to decide what teachers are going to get money?
Right. Well, normally, I mean, I would imagine the process is equally distributed, but there are teachers who may have varying degrees of responsibilities. I'm not exactly sure how that will be divided, but obviously, if I should be fortunate to serve on the board, I will ensure that process is equitable.
Okay, and what about the mental health? You said that part of it is going to go to mental health. Do you know what that's going to look like? Or if you had some say so, how would that look? What would that look like in terms of providing mental health to students in Broward County?
If I had some say so, I would try to get more money for mental health. I mean, mental health is really important.
Get the money to do what with it?
Okay, well, currently they have counselors in schools, right? But as you know, and anyone who's been a teacher, they kind of pull these counselors all over the place. These counselors are not really engage 100% in what they should be doing.
True.
So some of them are doing testing, some of them are doing other chores within the schools. We have to stop that. We have to make sure that we have adequate staff to do these additional things that they're pulling our counselors, our guidance counselors and so on to do. The funding, Sandra, is really to provide more counselors on school grounds, right? That's what they're trying to do, to have a higher ratio of counselors. I think some schools will have 2 of them, depending on the student volume and so on.
And my question always is how is it they decide who it is that they're going to hire? Because that's they get counselors. Because I went to a school that had counselors too, but those counselors did not look like me, and they didn't understand hardly none of what I was dealing with, right? So it's one thing to say, oh, we're going to give this money to mental health, and we're going to have counselors on campus, but how much effort is going to go into making sure that those counselors that are on those schools are appropriate for the environments that they're in? And I do think there's such a thing.
Right. Well, you have a good point, and I think that it's important that the counselors understand the community, right? I mean, you're dealing with children who have various issues, and you have to be familiar with those issues. If you're not from the community and you're from a certain community where those issues are not paramount, then you're gonna have a hard time understanding why this child is behaving this way because you're not very you don't understand the dynamics of the community that you're in. So obviously, I think you have a very good point that we do need to ensure that we're putting the right people in the right places.
So you mentioned that because you gave some numbers, because I'm pretty sure you did your research. So 75% goes to the teachers, 18% goes to school security, and
Right.
8% goes to mental health. Jeff, like that is so low. Like
Right.
school security gets 18% and mental health gets only 8. So if you become a school board member, would you fight with I'm not fight, would you go and advocate to the state? Because I was told that school board
Right.
members can go to Tallahassee
Right.
and advocate for more money for mental health. And the question that Sandra asked, you didn't answer it. I want to know what you would like to do with mental health. What do you envision?
Okay, so first of all, we do need to provide more funding for mental health, right? And what you mentioned that we're putting 18% towards school safety. We've done a whole lot in Broward County towards school safety. I mean, we've spent a lot of money. We spent 31, I believe it was $31 million to upgrade our surveillance, our bus radio system, all of these things, single point entry, and so on. So
Right.
we've spent a lot of money there. You know, I kind of feel that we need to kind of bump up mental health a little bit in terms of what we spend because we've taken care a lot of the school safety aspect. We still haven't addressed the mental health issues in
Agreed.
a significant way. So I would love to see that percentage go up for mental health, not necessarily affecting the teachers because, we all know teachers need more money. But, when we look at that 18%, maybe bump it up a little bit towards mental health and then try to secure additional funding for mental health. It goes hand in hand. We can fortify our schools all over the place, but if we have children coming out of there with significant mental issues, we're going to still run the risk of these kind of things happening.
Okay, so I have another question about the school safety part of it. One of the things that we're hearing, I'm gonna just say what I heard, is that part of the school security is gonna include metal detectors in certain schools. What's your position on that?
Well, I don't particularly necessarily think that metal detectors in every school is going to prevent anything from happening. I think it's a false sense of security. I think the problem is bigger than that. Here's what I look at as well, Sandra. Sometimes we miss the very basic details of keeping our kids secure, right? And we're doing all this very fortifying stuff, and we miss the very details. If you look at what happened in Texas, a door was left open. A door was left open, and someone walked in and killed all these elementary school kids. So sometimes what we have to do is start to look at what are the things that we should be doing. And here's one thing that I would suggest, and I don't see it happening. Right? We need to have a team of people that go to different schools and test the security of the schools. See if they can breach the security, so you can actually continue to identify where there are loopholes and fix them, right? I don't think we have, like they would have in general secret shoppers and so on. I don't think we have any such thing in place in the county where you have individuals who are expert at what they do and they see if they can actually breach the security, because once we know where our problems are, we'll be able to start to fix them. So I think something simple like that, which cost a little money, but at least we'll be able to see where our loopholes are and to fix them.
Okay, so part of what I heard you say in your response is that you don't think that metal detectors need to be in all schools, right? I think that's what you said. It doesn't need to be in all schools. Does that mean that you think it needs to be in some schools?
I'm not one who necessarily believe that will secure our schools any better. Any school, you
So,
know,
so the answer is no. You don't think it should be in schools then?
I don't think it will be effective.
Effective. Okay. All right. Okay. So,
Now here's what I would say, Nani. If they have a pilot school that they test this on and it works, great. You
Um,
know, and I and when you look at it, I'm not saying that they should not pilot test these things.
mhm.
You should, because that's the only way you have an answer. Um, but from my thinking, I don't necessarily believe it will be effective. But should you pilot test it? Sure. So if you want to pilot test it in 2 or 3 schools, go right ahead.
Well, here's my thing.
Black schools or schools out west?
I think it should be pilot tested in any school. I don't. It shouldn't be black school, white school. It should be
I
pilot
don't think
tested
you
in
should
schools.
either. You're right. I agree with you.
Right.
My only thing with the metal detectors is that I don't know about you, but for me, like when I'm going to the airport or whatever stuff like that, there's something psychological that happens when you're going through a metal detector and or a wand. So it's, to me, for kids, that's another psychological issue that I'm concerned about, and it goes into that mental health part that we were talking
Absolutely.
about earlier.
It's very intrusive, and it can actually create more problems. And here's another. It create logistical problems. What are we going to do? Have every kid go through a metal detector? Can you imagine when you're trying to get 2,000 kids in the building in the morning?
Yeah.
So it's logistically, it's going to create a lot of chaos. It's very intrusive for the children,
Right.
and I'm not sure it provides any additional security for anyone.
Yeah.
All right. So you talked about closing the learning gap, right? So what issues do you think the district needs to address in academic programming and offering to students in school?
Well, learning gaps have been created because of the COVID. There's a COVID slide in education. There's no doubt about that. Everybody knows that. All kinds of research has shown that. The data has shown that.
Well, we know that's the problem. So what can the schools
Right.
do to fix that? That's what I want to know.
So we have to look at how we can have additional programs for student learning outcome, right? For example, when I was at Lions Creek, I identified that our lowest 25 percentile, that if we can really work with those kids and provide the right program for those kids can be successful. So if you were to call Lions Creek, they can tell you I developed a program called Student Learning Communities. That program had over 400 students in the program. We had over 50 teachers, and we were able to have significant learning gains for those lowest 25 percentile. We need to have those kind of initiatives in schools. We need to have a budget for them, because we do have to pay those teachers, right? Especially if we're having some of those programs that extend after school. In addition to that, we do need to do a better job at having formative assessments to determine what are the gaps of students and to identify these students and to work with these students, so when we do summative assessment, it can show that they improve significantly and they're ready for the next grade level. It has to be a school effort, concertedly with the district as well, in providing funding and so on. So we do have to implement.
What do you think about like more culturally specific assessments? Because one of the things that happened with all of these tests that they develop, they're not
Right.
they don't necessarily take into consideration the cultural
Right.
nuance, cultural and ethnic nuances of different school population, right?
Right.
I even though I've been to the United States a long time, when I came here, I didn't learn about diapers because we called them all Pampers. When I was in the Bahamas, we called detergent Tide. So sometimes these exams are written in a way that does not take into consideration the cultural and the ethnic nuances of such a diverse community as Broward County. How would you do that? Because you're saying something about formative testing, but the testing was kind of getting a whole bunch of folks in trouble and having them thinking they can't learn because they can't perform on these standardized tests. That's not necessarily made with their minds in consideration.
Right. Well, Sandra, you have a good point, because one size doesn't necessarily fit all, right? We all have different backgrounds. We come from different places. We have different cultural experiences. the material needs to be reflective of the student population that you have in the particular district that you're serving. It's interesting, and I don't know if you notice the difference too. Sometimes I'll go to, for example, a supermarket in a particular community, and I see some products that are offered, and then you go to another community and they don't offer those products because it's not specific to that community. So if we're able to do it on that very basic level of what you eat, then what you consume academically, we should be able to do that as well, shouldn't we? So, I think that it is important that we are appealing to the cultural diversity of our district, and be specific in ensuring that we are targeting students based upon their cultural experiences, and we're not presenting foreign materials to them that they will probably not do well on, because they're not aware of those type of gestures and those kind of cultural input from other communities that they may not really know much about. So I agree.
So we can count on you to spearhead that?
Of course. Listen, Nani, you know my background, and so does Sandra. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for that. It's important that we, and it goes in every direction. It's not just, we wouldn't want to present stuff that are culturally specific to a community that I'm serving and try to put that into another community that they're not familiar with either, right? So it's important that we respect each other, and that we are targeted in how we educate our children, and also in our assessments, Sandra. I wish, for example, even the FSA, it should be it should consider diversity in terms of how you assess these students, because their language is being used that some kids are just not familiar with. It's culturally foreign.
Yep. The thing with that also, Jeff, is that, as you know, the legislation from the governor had just signed with the things that has to do with, cultural things, and, basically banning us doing certain things or whatever. So as a school board member, how would you maneuver yourself around trying to advocate for those testings to be culturally sensitive? As you know, I guess I want to say maybe, sensitive, for lack of a better word, but in terms of trying to get the rest of the board to be in agreement, because when you do something in your district, that doesn't necessarily mean it's only for your district. Many times you make a decision is district wide, right? So county wide. So knowing that this new legislation is going to be taken in effect July 1st, and I know it's going to affect you in the new school year, what are some of the things that you're going to try to do in order to make that a possibility?
Well, here's the thing, Nani, and that's a different question, right? In the sense that when we look at materials that are culture specific, as opposed to, I think you're making reference to the critical race theory, right? Issue that the governor has. That's what you're talking about now, right?
Well, yeah, because that they kind of coincide together, and
they shouldn't.
They should be,
but it's not. So that's kind of actually not the same thing, because first of all,
not the same thing.
Theory is not taught in school. So
it's
like
not
that's not taught.
So that's why I want to
That's not what we're talking about, right? That's about so they're not teaching critical race theory in school, so that ain't even like a nothing, right? But what we do know is that standardized testing is written from a perspective that is not very inclusive of what the United States look like. And because it's not written in that way, there are certain students that tend to underperform on the test because the test is not written in a way that's inclusive of other folks. So that's very different from trying to teach critical race theory. They basically have a test that a lot of students are never going to perform well on because of the way the test is written.
Correct.
But the reason why I brought that up is because let's say that you do advocate for, a testing that, like Sandra just mentioned, and you're trying to make sure that it's where, kids can understand because they come from different cultures and different backgrounds. How this legislation affects us is because when anything that they claim or they feel that can be any sort of indoctrination, anything. Because, and that's how, if you read and you're looking up and down, but I read the legislation. So the legislation is very ambiguous, yet it is almost curtailed to anything that's opposite of what they feel. So just like how you said that you said there was Pampers, but you didn't know it was Pampers, it was diapers or whatever the case is.
No, we call it Pampers. They call it diapers here.
Okay, or diapers. And then you said laundry detergent was Tide, and then it was
Tide in the Bahamas. It's Tide.
Any kind of words that in the legislation, if you read it, any kind of words that give any kind of significance to anything that seems like it would be indoctrination or culturally or whatever, that's how it's read. It's ambiguous, but I kind of figured it out.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it's so tricky.
So,
I know
it's countless examples. Like for instance, my mom used to tell us to make haste, right? And then I found out here that it's hurry up. So but these are things that don't got nothing to do about like somebody grandfather enslaving nobody else. That's just language, right?
But it's language. But then you can also say that it's language from back then, and then the next thing you know, you're offending somebody.
Make haste is Britain. That's straight colonialism too. It's just British instead of American.
We just want to make sure that Dr. Holness,
exactly.
We just want to make sure that Dr. Holness is able to advocate. Those kids are able to get the test and they're able to understand. That's all.
Okay. So can I comment on both aspects of what we're talking about? Because I want to comment on the inclusion of cultural diversity within the curriculum as opposed to the teaching of critical race theory, because it's two different points.
Two different things, yeah.
And I want to make sure that the viewers understand, right? So I am an advocate for having cultural diversity within the curriculum so that, and we're not saying to make anything any easier for anybody. We're just saying keep everything at the same difficulty level, but make sure the content is appealing to the particular community that we're dealing with, right? So that's all we're saying. And that I am for. Now, critical race theory is a whole different thing, right? Because critical race theory is, it's a social, political, and power distribution of specific groups through the lens of race. And its intent is to identify racial biases, right? The governor claimed that this is being taught in school, and it is not. In fact, the New York Times actually took 21 of these books that they took off the adoption list for the school system, and they have not been able to find anything except for, I think, 4 of these books on a couple of pages, something remotely concerning race. So this is all a political stunt to get brownie points and making a big deal out of nothing. And we're not about to play games with our children's lives, right? So the idea of critical race theory being taught in school, it's absolutely not true. But in terms of embracing diversity and ensuring that materials are appealing to our students and that they can do well on these type of assessments, it's important that it is inclusive of different experiences of our children, right?
Well, let me.
So that way, Sandra can understand when she was a kid, if they say Pampers or diapers, she knows what it is, right?
Because I was confused.
So let me talk about something that you know about, which is social emotional learning. And
correct.
Emotional learning has been attacked by the legislation that's going to be coming into effect in July. He's basically saying that his kids need to learn about arithmetic. They don't need to learn about how they feel about arithmetic. So social emotional learning has been attacked, and quite frankly, it would appear that the Broward County School District, which was very big on social emotional learning, that was a big part of some of the new programs and resources coming into the school. Now it's in jeopardy in terms of you all won't be able to even use it anymore. So like what are some of the things that you're thinking about going into this school year with social learning?
Now that's a whole different thing, right? So with social emotional learning, I mean, it's ridiculous that we're making this an issue, right? Because when you look at any content of the school district and social emotional learning, it's really to help to build the confidence and self-awareness of our children and so on. And what's wrong with infusing that in our curriculum? I mean, it's absolute nonsense.
He's calling it indoctrination, Jeff. He said that's indoctrination.
No, it's not. It's not. In fact, I'll give you a very basic example, right? And I'm just thinking outside the box. You will have something very simple like John and Jane are going across the bridge. John is afraid to go across the bridge. Jane gave John confidence. If the bridge is 35 feet long and they're traveling 5 feet per second, how long did it take? I mean, that is a nice segue into the problem, right? And at the
Right.
same time, it's saying to kids, be confident, and Mary did a good thing for John, build his confidence. And now here's the problem. What is wrong with that?
Right.
There's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. I mean, it can't just be cut and dry. It's boring, right?
Right. Right.
And if you can do something a little bit more exciting for the kids, and at the same time build their self-awareness, build their confidence by the way in which it's said to appeal to their social emotional health, there's nothing wrong with it.
So going into the school year, I did ask a couple of cadre directors that I talked to, what does that look like? And so because they said that they don't know until that law goes into effect in July, it's going to be a very real change and transition going in. Can the school board members do anything about that?
Well, there are some things we can do and there are some things we can't do. Obviously, we do have to follow state legislature and all these other things. You can look back on the issue with the mask when the governor came in and then we had to now get rid of the mask. So the school board, their hands are tied depending on what's.
Are they though? Are they tied?
No.
Are they tied or can they just fight? Are they
They
just
can
Is it really
fight.
tied or can they fight?
They can fight, but they can't break the law.
No, I'm not saying break the law, but there's some laws that
Well, you can fight the law.
You can litigate the issue. You be like, listen, I think this is unconstitutional, so let's fight this. You don't have to concede all the time.
Never. And what I'm saying is, I'm not saying we should concede, but we have to understand the perimeter of the game that we have to play to get what we need done, right?
So I think they need to stop being scared to fight. That's where I'm at.
Well, that could be a point, but at the same time, listen.
Because some of the stuff, and again, I know you're the one that's supposed to be talking, but some of the stuff is not sustainable. Like most of the thing this governor's doing, I'm like, y'all crazy even trying to do this because it is not sustainable. So why are you going to engage in doing something that's not sustainable instead of just fighting it out front? Because it's the things it's like, dude, you legislating feelings. What are you doing? It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like why are people trying to, why they doing backflips to accommodate stuff that makes no sense?
Right. And in all fairness, some of the board members did fight, especially with the mask mandate and the governor threatened their salaries and all these other things, and
can't always be easy.
Some of them stood up and then I believe the federal government intervened to some degree. They did fight and sometimes we have to fight. And sometimes it's important.
I think social emotional learning is something that you should fight for.
I absolutely agree. Listen, we already have our kids in front of these electronic games and all these other things, and they're increasingly becoming antisocial. They cannot socialize beyond the computer screen.
Yes.
So if we can infuse in our content a way to kind of build their confidence and their personal skills, and their self-worth and so on, what is wrong with it? And it's absolutely something we should fight for, Nanik. And I agree that I absolutely agree with that.
So you're going on record saying that you're going to fight for social emotional learning.
Absolutely. No.
Once he has all the facts and the information that he's able to review,
on how
he should.
I don't think he needs facts. I think he's going to fight for
he's going to need data, facts, information.
But Sandra, the facts are in our face. We see our children every day, right? And we understand.
I believe Jeff is going to fight for social emotional learning. I don't think he needs facts for that. I think he's just going to be like, I'm going to come in there and we're going to fight.
He said the facts are already there. We see it every day.
We see it every day.
The facts.
And it's really important. I mean, what are we trying to do to our children? We're trying to just create everything abstract. Here is 2 + 2 = 4. I mean, is that the kind of human being we're trying to move on to the next generation?
Yeah, they need some critical thinking skill. I'm telling you, these students are like robots. It's like, oh, but what's the next step? I'm like, well, can you think your way through it though? You know what I mean? They can't think their way out of nothing.
And no wonder we have all of these mental issues because of politics being played with our children's lives. Because this social emotional learning stuff, it's just politics. These are political stunt at the expense of our children and their future. And of course,
that's why it doesn't make sense and it's not sustainable. That's what I'm saying. Don't fall for this foolishness. This stuff is not sustainable. These people are playing games with real life stuff and don't get sucked into the nonsense, But the last point I want to make, because we've been talking for an hour and a half, and I probably could talk to you for like 2 hours, right? It's like, so should the schools be interested in making all their graduates college ready? And if not, why not? Should the goals of the school making everybody college ready?
I would say the goal of the school is to make everyone career ready. Okay, so that's a whole different point, right? Because kids have different interests, kids have different skills. So college ready is not necessarily should be the goal for 100% of our students. There are many students with different types of unique talents that you don't necessarily need a college degree to do, right? So the goal is to ensure that the next generation of kids are career ready and they're successful, well-rounded, mentally sound human beings. That's the goal.
I agree, because I also have a daughter that's special needs, and I had to get into it with some of the teachers because they're all focusing on this testing. I'm like, listen, my daughter's on a spectrum. She has comprehension issues. Most likely she's gonna have a job that's gonna require her to use her hands. Okay, so like all of this stuff that y'all talking about, this is not what we're trying to do here. So so I absolutely agree that we really need to have programs that are tailored towards students who they're not going to college, because some of them are not going to want to go. That's one thing, right? And then some of it, they have intellectual delays that are not going to put them in a position where they can go to colleges and universities, and they can learn trades that can provide them with a very successful and a very good life, And so that should also be taken into consideration, particularly since such a big part of the population now are special needs. Because it's like, if I got like 10 friends, like 6 of us or 7 of us have children that are on the spectrum, some more high functioning than the others. So that's a reality of what we're dealing with, right? The autism numbers are like 1 in 59 or something like that, right? So the school is dealing with a significant number of students that are special needs, and they need to take that into consideration instead of focusing on making everybody college ready.
And here's the thing. College is not the only factor that we can say is synonymous with success, right? You have kids who are extremely successful who were allowed to explore their unique interests, and they become even significantly more successful than someone who graduated from college. So we have to allow kids to explore their talent, and we have to provide opportunities. That's why the arts and humanities in public school are very important. We have to give them the opportunity to explore interest beyond the usual or what we consider the traditional route to success. And guess what? But the last time I checked, most of the richest people in the world, they didn't graduate from college.
No, didn't.
Right? They all the money, right?
They sure didn't. You sit and reading them books if you want to. Information.
That's the truth, Jeff. They sure did not graduate from college.
Did not. As far as I know. I mean, I'm using a Dell computer. He didn't graduate from college.
He sure didn't.
But he's worth millions, isn't he?
Yeah, he worth billions.
Billions, right?
Yeah. All right. So Jeff, tell the people where they can reach you, because even though qualifying ends tomorrow, you still have July, August. Well, primaries in August, but you still have the month of July. So where can people send money to you? Where can people reach out to volunteer for your campaign?
They got 2 months.
Okay. Money. Well, one of the best places to go is my website. It's about 95% done. We just have to remove a few little things here and there, but it's votejeffholness.com. That's votejeffholness.com, and there's a donate page on there, so they can donate on that website as well. Like I said, we just have to remove a few little things. It's a modification of a prior website that I had, but it's pretty much 95% updated. Also, they can send, if they want to send a check, they can send to 1317 North University Drive, Coral Springs, Florida, 33071. That is my learning center office. They can send it there as well. We do receive mails there as well.
And what was the zip code one more time?
33071.
Okay.
And your social media is Vote Jeff Holness?
VoteJeffHolness.com is the website.
Okay.
Okay. And what's your Facebook and your Instagram page?
Okay. The Instagram we don't have that currently updated.
Okay.
They can and the Facebook is in the process of being updated, but they can locate it at Jeff Holness for Broward Schools. I believe that's where the Facebook developer is on that.
For Broward Schools.
Yeah.
All right. Put this in the chat. Okay. So
All right. So I brought the heat today.
Yeah, you did, Sandra.
I did.
I love it though, and listen. Sometimes we need that heated thing going, right?
You know, I mean, you stood your ground.
It's good to see candidates take on the heat because it shows the passion of the candidate for the people. Because people need to you know when you're on that dais, you're gonna be in the heat too. Because then people are gonna be like, and you.
Of course,
no, folks are gonna start coming to those meetings. I'm telling you, people are. Listen, like I said, I went to that meeting. I had to park across the street because the parking lot was full. So people are gonna start coming because they're realizing that you know decisions are being made that's affecting them, and they want their voice to be heard. So yeah, and some of them gonna sound like me.
Right. And listen, it's important that we engage with all different kinds of people. It's important that they're passionate. You know, everyone has a different way of voicing their concern, and we have to be good listeners for that as well. And we have to remain calm and try to address their needs.
And how would you make the board more accessible to the community? Because I think if they were more accessible, then you wouldn't have to have on that particular Tuesday morning, you know, 150, 200 people show up because they mad. If the board members were more accessible to the community, so how would you?
Listen, they have to engage the community, and you have to go out in the community and plan community dialogue with folks on different issues. Even within a district, there are specific issues. You know, so you need to be out there, engage the community leaders, and be speakers at these community events, and have your own events too, where you discuss changes that are occurring within that community. For example, in Parkway, they're doing some changes with the schools and so on. So it's important to go there and speak to the community, have the community leaders arrange for you to be there, and let them field you questions and tell them what's going to happen next, that kind of a thing. So you have to go out to the community, and you have to engage them, and you have to engage the leaders who will present the community to you when you're there.
All right.
So if you become a school board member, Jeff, you're gonna do some tours in your district on a regular basis.
Of course.
Maybe once or twice a year. You
have to, not once or twice a year. You got to do it more than that. But you have to engage it, because listen, it's a two-way street, right? It's mutual, right? When you go there, you're bringing information, but you're also getting information from the community, what they need, and you're giving them information about what you're doing. So that mutuality is there, and you will not experience it if you stay just on the seat at the board meetings.
Absolutely. All right, Jeff. Thank you so much.
He could actually start doing what the people want instead of what he think they want.
That's right. Yep.
That's what it seems like a lot of them folks doing. They think they doing what they think people want.
Yeah.
Instead of asking them for help.
You got to ask. What is your need, and then you got to proceed to address it.
All right, y'all go to votejeffholness.com.
Donate. That's Starbucks money. He needs money. He needs time.
Forgo that Starbucks
coffee. Yeah.
Or
that impossible breakfast sandwich that's like $6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Forgo that. Give me your money. your time.
Yeah.
All right. You can say you can mail him a check at 1317 North University Drive, Coral Springs, Florida 33071. He loves the money that jingle, but he likes the one that folds.
That's right, but he gonna take it all up to the legal limits. All right, so Joy Smith says she didn't see a member from District 1. Yes, we've interviewed Rod Velez twice.
We did.
He's from District. He's running in District 1.
Yeah, we did. We did.
And we reached out to everybody too.
I didn't get interviewed twice.
Huh?
How come
Yeah, because he came early. He came early and then he came again. So we ended up actually speaking with him twice.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know what? He came way before. That's before you said you was running, Jeff, though. That's
Okay. Well, I won't take it personal then.
Yeah, no, not personal. He came very early on, and so we brought him closer once people were really settling in. Yes, Miss Smith, we did interview someone from District 1, and we've reached out to all of them, and he's the one who had responded.
He's the only one that
So
responded.
if you know either one of them that want to come, bring them. We ready to talk to them. That's why Rev Wiggins is from over there. I want to talk to him.
Me too.
Rev Wiggins. So Joy, tell Rev Wiggins.
Tell him to come holla.
Tell him to holla at us. I want to talk
All
to
right,
him.
Jeff. So listen, vote jeffholness.com. Send him some money. Give him some of your time.
Yeah.
He's gonna need people at the polls. The polls have changed, so Jeff got to get. Jeff is really good with getting people situated. So you just reach out to him.
Okay.
And he'll out there.
So Joy said she was talking about past members. So Joy, we started doing this like 2020. So I don't know who the past members were for that seat. There was no candidate for that seat when we started doing the interviews.
And I have to say this really quick. My son said to let the audience know, go Golden State Warriors.
Oh,
so
okay. Okay, so I ain't gonna be too mad at that, even though like
I'm delivering my son's message, okay?
I want the Boston coach to win, but okay, I ain't gonna be mad at Golden State. I ain't mad at none of that.
Is that Steph Curry?
I saw him in his outfit. I saw him in his Golden State outfit. The little boy is diehard.
He bought Steph Curry and he bought me a jersey. He said, "Dad, you got to wear this with me wherever I go."
I saw the pictures. And I'm not gonna tell you that I actually have a Golden State Warrior rug in this room right now, right? Like I really would go and get it and show you. So my son was thinking about that Golden State Warrior life too. His room was painted yellow and blue until like now I don't know what color. Oh, he's into football, so it's Kansas City Chief colors right now, but it was Golden State Warriors right before that. So even
Listen,
though
I hope I didn't
for the Boston coach.
I hope I didn't offend any Celtics fans, okay?
Nah, you did not.
Steph Curry, thebomb.com, all right? So
yeah.
We out here with Steph Curry.
So either way, I'm good with whoever wins.
Me too. Don't matter to me. All right, Jeff, nice talking to you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
So your son thinks they're gonna win tonight, or is it going to Game 7?
Listen, I got to go with my son.
Okay.
The future has spoken. The future
he said it. It's
right. Okay.
Yeah.
You have a good night, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that was serious.
Yeah, you was on fire tonight.
No, what did I tell you? I don't like people not answering no questions. Man, he didn't answer them questions, but it's okay. Because we would have been finished like in 10 minutes had I gotten a straight answer.
Yeah,
I might have insisted for too long. My bad. But he did good. He held his own.
He did really good. Jeff is.
Yeah, he knows his stuff.
He knows his stuff. He does his research. Shot. He's not gonna give you no information unless he got the facts. You better get it together.
I need the facts. But I'm glad he cleared up that whole emotional response thing. I'm like, who being emotional?
Not emotional, okay?
Yeah, I just don't give emotional answers. I give logical ones, ma'am.
Listen. Was my answer emotional? Maybe.
I was like, am I being emotional or like this some BS for real?
Am I being emotional? Because
I think so. Maybe passionate, not emotional though. No, because I can be passionate and being real logical at the same time.
Yeah. So
yes.
I'm all about that. I'm all about that. But he did a good job. He did a good job.
Very good.
I appreciate, what I learned from him, because I always try to learn from the candidates. He brought the information about the referendum, because a lot of candidates, they talk about it, but they didn't give like raw information. And I appreciated that, because that's a lot of money, $177 million, and only 8% to mental health, and knowing that mental health is one of the biggest issues we're dealing with now. So that's an issue for me. And the other question I didn't get to ask him is, like, who created the referendum, and then who decides the 75%, the 18%, the 8%? Like, I should have asked that, but I forgot.
But I guess that is basically what I'll need. Like, the bulk of it is like about teacher salary, because one of the ways they think that they're not keeping teachers is because they're not paying them enough, right? So they pay them more, they figure they're gonna keep them.
Yeah.
And
So
even though it's like 70%, it may work out to like one person at each school, right? Depending on what their salary are. So that might be what the amount is, because 7% of $177 million ain't like a little bit of money. You know what I mean?
True.
So
that's true.
So it might just be enough to cover that, one new counselor at the school or something like that. One dedicated counselor to the school. That could be it.
So that was thing or whatever. But I'm still disappointed with the superintendent, and I'm still disappointed with the board members. It's just a problem for me.
So I mean, that's gonna be what it is. And then like Murray said, she gonna have to live with that. Murray said, you gonna have to live with that, lady. This is gonna be all on you.
Well, my thing is, it's not really all on her. It's all on the board members too, because they could have voted no.
Yeah, they could have, but she said, this is what she wanted to do. She's gonna have to live with it. And I guess the board members, if it comes to it, then they just gonna have to correct it, or whatever that's going to look like.
I guess it's gonna look like when they have to remove her from her position. If that's
okay. So I'm not predicting no futures. I don't know.
You gotta correct. If you dissented on something and you said, well, it's all on you and you got to deal with it, and then it comes back and bites you in the butt and it makes the whole district look bad, do we still keep you? I'm just saying, that's just the inevitable for me. I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. So Joy says she interacted with Rod, but not with the rep. Okay, yeah. So we spoke with Rod.
Mm-hmm.
We spoke with Rod.
Yeah, we spoke with him.
Thank you, Joy, for joining us. And we saw that you shared his video.
Yeah.
I'm not going blank. Raymond's video. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, Raymond's video from yesterday. Thank you so much.
Yep, we are really
appreciate you guys.
We're all about making people be more involved with their local elected officials, because
they need to be.
They need to
see how important it is. It's necessary.
It's necessary.
And we need to know how they handle pressure.
If they can handle pressure in the beginning, then they can handle pressure.
Yeah, they're good. They can keep their cool and be logical. Yeah.
And get all the facts.
And not emotional.
Not having emotional.
Not taking a position.
Was I emotional though? Because I don't think I was emotional.
We were not being emotional.
I think I was just being very passionate.
And even if we were, I say it's passion, not emotion. It's passionate. Yeah. Because that position, to me, they were wrong. Like, listen, when the people was giving them answer about it's not transparent, the community don't like it. When you're saying all that sounds like you need to be saying no, since the community gave you your job. Like, so that's not me being emotional. That's me being like, for real. And if I am being emotional, it makes sense, because they're straight up telling you that they don't think they should be doing what they're about to go do. Like, how that makes sense?
And at the end of the day, we're their bosses, period. That's what it is. And so I have a right.
So I think my school board person didn't say nothing.
Well, no, your school board person did say something, because
who's my school board person?
What are you?
I'm in Miramar. I thought it was Patty Good was my person.
It is Patty Good.
She didn't say nothing though.
Well, she did say something.
Oh, the silence is definitely. The silence speaks volume. Okay.
She's complicit. Yeah, she's complicit. When you're quiet, you're complicit.
Like,
if you don't listen, what's that saying? You stand up. If you don't stand for something, you're gonna fall for anything. You got to stand up for things. Period. There's
Joy Smith, commissioner in West Park, right? You're one of the commissioners in West Park.
Yes, Joy Smith is a commissioner. I think she is
in West Park. Yeah. Yeah. They've been feeding folks every Saturday. They were doing it more frequently every Saturday since the pandemic started, and they still doing that. So West Park putting in that work.
Beautiful.
Yeah, West Park putting in that work.
Well, we all about holding people accountable, and we're all about making sure that candidates If you're gonna have a voice for the people, then you need to speak up. So this rigmarole, running around, not knowing what to say, that don't work. Because people now are looking for candidates who are going to stand up and not allow bullying going on, gonna stand up for us. If you're not gonna be standing up for us and you're just gonna do the same old, then you don't need to be there.
Yeah, stop being scared, man.
Stop being scared.
Yeah.
Fight for what's right. Fight for the people. You know, it's the people in power. The people in power is the people who. It's us who give you the power. You don't have the power on your own. You know what I'm saying? So let's if you're gonna be a servant for the people, be a servant. If you're coming in there because you're trying to get your career some kind of way or whatever, then be honest about that too. I respect you better. I will respect you more if you're honest about what you're doing. Like, don't play me. So, all right. So not next week, because next week, we'll be gone.
Yeah, we'll probably be replaying a video next week because we might be in the streets. We're gonna be in the streets next week.
We're gonna be in the streets. It's a Juneteenth weekend. Is it today?
Yeah.
Or no?
Oh yeah, so many events, man.
Many events.
It's stuff happening all over the place, almost in every city, town. They starting the night all the way through Monday night because y'all don't got to work on Monday.
All about it. So let me tell you something. I posted on my Facebook. Go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. It's enough events going on.
Enough events going on, enough of us getting together. And please, 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 when you're out in these events, we want collaboration, we want unity, we want love. Okay. We don't have time to fight, we don't have time to argue. This is about us. It's about us, right? So go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it. Go be with your peoples, all right? Go hang out, go talk about
it's all kind of stuff. They got gospel stuff going on, they got Christian stuff going on, they got the arts going on, they're doing murals. It's a lot happening
lit,
in South Florida this weekend. Juneteenth related.
What can say? It's lit.
Do everything black.
We blackity black.
Yes, do everything black this weekend. Stop black, buy black, spin black, just
all
everything
day
black.
Blackness,
black, and black for real black, not that fake Walmart ice cream black. We talking about
not that Herschel black.
No, not the fake ice cream. We talking about blacks. Black small business go black.
Go black. Okay, it's gonna be lit like the kids say over the weekend. This whole weekend is gonna be lit.
Yeah,
all about us. So go in there and have a good time.
Black community doing black stuff, celebrating black people,
celebrating us all day. And listen, don't let this Juneteenth just be this Juneteenth. We celebrate blackness all the time, every day, everywhere. All right, 124/7 blackness. That's what we're doing.
Oh, okay. So Joy said they still they're helping the small businesses and homeowners, minor repairs, yay. And they awarded 7 students with at their meeting tonight with scholarships. Yay. Last night with scholarship. That's right. I mean, West Park ain't playing, man. They ain't playing. They are not playing. They serious.
I think the other cities should see what other cities are doing. Mimic some of
they're doing good work.
Love.
I think West Park's the one where they said they made the police officers come out the cars and interact with the people in the community. That's what's up. A small city with a big heart. Yes, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and ain't nothing small about West Park, honey. Ain't nothing small about it.
They do big things. They do big things.
Ain't nothing small.
You come to my city to party. We had a best.
What you say?
Listen, I'm in Miramar West. Like, you want to party, you go to Miramar West. They got all the concerts, the shows, the everything.
You gotta talk about it. They show you.
You go to Miramar West.
Hey, I traveled to Miramar to go to their parties, and their parties ain't no joke over there. Okay, I'm loving every part of their party.
Know how to have a party. They don't know how to
need to do is have some of your commissioners rub off on some of my commissioners because we want to party like that too.
They be partying. Yo,
they want to do all of that.
They party.
I love it. So we'll see y'all.
What's this month? Caribbean month. I'm sure they got an event happening for Caribbean.
Oh yeah, they got quite a few.
Yeah, they got a pride event. All that. Listen,
quite a few.
Always have a party.
You guys do. You guys. Oh, listen. Miramar be having all kinds of like outdoor events, indoor events.
Yeah, they had the Compa Fest. All that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they want to play.
All right, y'all on fire. Y'all need to go ahead and send out a memo to the rest of the other 30 cities. Let them know what we doing, child.
See, they're having a meeting with the police at her gate next Wednesday. I'm telling you, West Park don't play. They're like, that's what's up.
Yeah, that's
Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Smith. All right, we're gonna head out.
We're gonna head out. You guys take care. We'll see you in about a week. And remember, it's still midterm elections. Governor DeSantis got to go.
Is it Lynch first? Who we have first? Or
no, you have
Antonio Burgess first.
Then Natalie
Lynch Walsh the next day. All
that
right.
next day. Listen, y'all, voting, go vote. Make sure
That's right.
Make sure you get your ballots.
Question ballot. Make sure your registration is up to date. Early voting starts August 13th.
Let's go. Let's get it. All right. Peace, y'all.